3 years had passed since Ava walked out of my life. People kept telling me time healed everything. They were wrong. Time didn't erase memories. It simply taught me how to carry them without letting anyone notice. On a quiet Tuesday afternoon, I returned home from work and found an elegant envelope waiting in my mailbox. My name was written in handwriting I recognized immediately. My heart skipped. There was only one person who still wrote my name that way. I carried the envelope inside without opening it. For nearly 10 minutes, I stared at it from across the kitchen table. Finally, I broke the seal. Inside was a simple invitation. You are invited to celebrate the wedding of Ava Collins and Nathan Brooks. For several seconds, I couldn't breathe. I read the card again, then again. The words never changed. Ryan arrived that evening carrying takeout. The moment he saw the invitation lying on the table, he sighed. So it's finally happening. I nodded quietly. Yeah. He sat across from me. Are you going? I don't know. He looked at me carefully. Don't. I frowned. You answered pretty fast. Because I know you. He pointed toward the invitation. That isn't closure. What is it? Self-inflicted pain. I looked down at the card. Maybe I need that. No. Ryan shook his head. You've spent 3 years rebuilding yourself. I've spent 3 years pretending. He stayed quiet. I continued. I still think about her. I know. I still wonder if I could have done something differently. I know. I don't want those questions anymore. Ryan leaned back. And you think watching her marry someone else will help? I think avoiding it hasn't. He didn't answer immediately. Finally, he sighed. If you go, don't expect answers. I'm not. What are you expecting? I thought about it. One last goodbye. The room became silent. Ryan rubbed his forehead. I wish I could stop you. You can't. I know. He looked at me, then promised me something. What? If it becomes too much, you'll leave. I nodded. I promise. Saturday arrived faster than I expected. Standing in front of my closet, I almost changed my mind 5 different times. Each time, I picked up the invitation again. Each time, I remembered why I had decided to go. Not to win her back. Not to cause a scene. Just to say goodbye to the future we never had. The wedding venue stood on the edge of a quiet lake surrounded by gardens filled with white roses. Luxury cars lined the entrance. Guests laughed as they walked inside. Everything looked perfect, almost painfully perfect. A hostess smiled warmly. Welcome. I handed her my invitation. She checked the guest list. You're all set. As I stepped through the large wooden doors, familiar music drifted through the hall. The decorations reminded me of conversations Ava and I used to have. White flowers, soft lights, simple elegance. Exactly what she always wanted. Every detail felt like a memory brought to life. I suddenly realized something. This wasn't just her dream wedding. It was ours. Only I wasn't the groom. That I stood near the back of the venue, hoping no one would notice me. The room buzzed with quiet conversations and cheerful laughter. Every smile around me reminded me why Ryan had begged me not to come. A familiar voice interrupted my thoughts. I didn't think you'd actually come. I turned. It was Melissa, one of Ava's closest friends. She looked surprised, but not uncomfortable. I almost didn't. She smiled politely. She'll be glad you came. Her words caught me off guard. You think so? Melissa hesitated. I think she needed to know you were okay. Before I could ask what she meant, another guest called her name. Excuse me. She disappeared into the crowd, leaving me with more questions than answers. A string quartet began playing softly. Guests slowly found their seats. I remained standing near a large window overlooking the gardens. My hands felt cold. My heartbeat refused to slow down. Then the music changed. Everyone turned toward the entrance. The doors opened. Ava stepped inside. She looked beautiful. The white dress suited her perfectly. The veil rested gently over her shoulders. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. This was the woman I once believed I would spend my life with. The woman I had imagined growing old beside. The woman I had spent 3 years trying to forget. She took one step forward, then another. The room admired her with smiles. Someone whispered, "She looks so happy." Another replied, "She's glowing." I wanted to believe them. Then our eyes met. Everything around us disappeared. She stopped walking, only for a second, but I noticed. So did she. Her smile faded almost instantly. Not completely, just enough for me to see what everyone else missed. Fear. Real fear. Not nervousness. Not ordinary wedding anxiety. Something deeper. Something that didn't belong on the face of a woman about to marry the love of her life. She looked away first. The music continued. The guests noticed nothing, but I couldn't stop watching her. Nathan, the groom, stood confidently at the altar. He smiled proudly as Ava approached. When she reached him, he gently took her hands. Anyone watching would have called them the perfect couple. Yet Ava's fingers trembled. Nathan leaned closer. From where I stood, I couldn't hear his words, but I saw her reaction. She forced another smile. It looked practiced, not genuine. A chill ran through me. The minister welcomed everyone. "We are gathered here today." His voice faded into the background. My attention stayed fixed on Ava. She wasn't listening either. She glanced toward the exit, then toward the windows, then briefly toward me again. Her breathing seemed uneven. I felt someone touch my shoulder. It was Ryan. "I knew I'd find you." I blinked. "What are you doing here?" He smiled weakly. "I didn't trust you to face this alone." I almost laughed. "You followed me?" "Pretty much." He looked toward the altar. "So?" I kept my eyes on Ava. "Something's wrong." Ryan studied her carefully. "I don't see anything." "Look closer." He watched for another moment. "I think she's just nervous." I slowly shook my head. "No." "What makes you so sure?" I remembered every expression Ava had ever worn during the years we were together. Joy, frustration, excitement, heartbreak. What I saw now was different. This wasn't the face of a bride overwhelmed by emotion. It was the face of someone silently begging for help. Before I could say another word, Ava's bouquet slipped from her hands and fell onto the aisle. The flowers scattered across the white carpet. The room laughed softly, assuming it was simple clumsiness. I didn't, because as she bent to pick them up, I saw the tears she desperately tried to hide. The ceremony paused briefly while guests settled into their seats again after Ava dropped her bouquet. Most people laughed and quickly forgot about it. I couldn't. Ryan stood beside me. "You're overthinking." "Maybe. You always notice things other people don't." I noticed because I knew her. He sighed. 3 years is a long time. It doesn't erase who someone is. Before Ryan could answer, a woman wearing a headset approached us. She carried a clipboard and smiled professionally. "Excuse me." "Yes." "Are you?" She looked down at her notes. She quietly spoke my name. "I am." She nodded. "Mr. Ethan would like to speak with you." Ryan frowned. "The groom?" "Yes." My heartbeat quickened. "What about?" I'm afraid he didn't say. Ryan immediately stepped closer. "You don't have to go." I looked toward the altar. Ethan was speaking with several relatives. He looked completely relaxed. "I'll be fine." Ryan didn't look convinced. "I'll wait nearby." I followed the wedding planner through a side hallway. "I'm Grace," she said. "It's nice to meet you." "You too." "I'm sorry for interrupting." "It's okay." She stopped outside a private lounge. "He's inside." She gently knocked. "Come in." Grace opened the door. "He'll see you now." She quietly stepped away. I entered the room. Ethan stood beside a large window overlooking the lake. He turned and smiled politely. "Thank you for coming." I nodded. "You wanted to see me?" I did. He walked closer. "I know this situation is unusual." "You could say that." He laughed softly. "I imagine you're wondering why I invited my bride's ex-boyfriend to a private conversation." That thought crossed my mind. Instead of looking angry, he extended his hand. "I'm Ethan." I shook it. His grip was firm, confident, not hostile. "Please." He gestured toward 2 chairs. "Sit." I hesitated. Then I did. For several moments, neither of us spoke. Finally, Ethan broke the silence. "I've wanted to meet you for months." I looked at him carefully. "Why?" "Because Ava talks about you." My chest tightened. "She does?" "Not often." He smiled faintly. "But enough." I didn't know what to say. Ethan folded his hands. "I investigated you." The word surprised me. "You what?" "Nothing illegal." He quickly smiled. I simply wanted to understand the man she once loved. And I learned you treated her well. I stared at him. You don't seem upset. Should I be? I'm your bride's ex. He nodded. You are. You don't see me as a threat? He looked directly into my eyes. No. The answer confused me. Why not? Because love isn't a competition. I remained silent. He continued. I know how deeply you cared about her. How? I asked questions. He looked toward the window. I spoke with her father. Mr. Bennett. I spoke with old friends. He looked back at me. I even spoke with people who watched both of you grow together. I couldn't understand where this conversation was going. Ethan smiled again. I didn't invite you here to warn you. Then why? He took a slow breath. I invited you here to thank you. I stared at Ethan, convinced I had misunderstood him. Thank me? He nodded. Yes. For what? He leaned back in his chair. For loving Ava when she needed someone to believe in her. I couldn't find the words. That doesn't make any sense. It does. He smiled gently. You were part of her life long before I was. I looked at him carefully. You don't seem jealous. I'm not. Most grooms wouldn't invite their bride's ex to a private conversation. He laughed quietly. I suppose not. Then why are you so calm? His smile slowly faded. Because I know something most people don't. The room suddenly felt smaller. What? He hesitated. Ava never truly healed after your breakup. My heart tightened. What do you mean? I've seen it. Seen what? The way she still blames herself. I looked away. She never told me why things ended. I know. I spent 3 years wondering. He nodded slowly. So did she. I looked back at him. What? You weren't the only one carrying pain. His words stayed with me. For years, I imagined Ava had moved on easily. Maybe she had suffered too. Ethan continued quietly. She still keeps an old photograph. I frowned. A photograph? Of the two of you. I looked surprised. You've seen it? Yes. Doesn't that bother you? He shook his head. No. Why? Because it isn't about competing with the past. He looked toward the closed door. It's about understanding it. Silence settled between us. Finally, I asked, then why marry her? He smiled sadly. Because I love her. And if she still loves someone else? His expression didn't change. Then I hope she finds the courage to tell me. The honesty caught me completely off guard. At that moment, someone knocked on the door. Grace stepped inside. I'm sorry to interrupt. It's okay. She looked at Ethan. It's almost time. He nodded. We'll be there. Before leaving, Grace glanced toward me. Then toward Ethan. Everything seemed perfectly organized. Yet even she looked nervous. After she left, Ethan stood. I have one favor to ask. What is it? If something happens today. He paused. Don't assume the worst about Ava. Those words made my stomach tighten. What do you mean? I mean she's been afraid all morning. Afraid of what? I don't know. He looked disappointed. She won't tell me. We walked back toward the ceremony together. As we entered the hallway, I noticed Ava standing alone near a mirror. The moment she saw Ethan beside me, the color drained from her face. She hurried toward us. Ethan. He smiled warmly. Everything okay? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked at me, then back at him. What were you talking about? Ethan answered honestly. We were getting to know each other. Her breathing became uneven. You shouldn't have. He gently touched her hand. Why? She forced a smile. No reason. But I saw it again. That same fear. Stronger now than before. Mr. Bennett walked over. There you are. He smiled proudly at his daughter. Everyone's waiting. Ava nodded. I know. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. As her father led her toward the entrance, she looked back one last time. Not at the guests. Not at the flowers. At me. Her eyes silently pleaded for something she couldn't say aloud. The music began again. Everyone believed the ceremony was finally ready to start. But standing beside Ethan, I realized we shared the same uneasy feeling. Neither of us was worried about the wedding. We were worried about the bride. The music filled the room as Ava walked toward the altar. Every guest watched her with admiration. She looked like the perfect bride. Her dress flowed behind her. Her smile appeared gentle. Her father walked beside her proudly. But I saw what everyone else missed. Her hands were shaking. Her eyes kept searching the room. And every few seconds, they returned to me. Ryan noticed too. You're seeing it again. I looked at him. Seeing what? The fear. I didn't answer, because I knew he was right. Ava reached the altar. Ethan smiled at her. For a moment, I thought maybe I had been wrong. Maybe this was just a nervous bride. Maybe 3 years of pain had made me see things that weren't there. Then Pastor Samuel stepped forward. We are gathered here today to celebrate the union of Ava and Ethan. Everyone smiled. Phones were raised. Cameras recorded. The perfect wedding moment. Pastor Samuel looked at Ethan. Do you take Ava to be your wife? Ethan looked at her. I do. Applause filled the room. Then Pastor Samuel turned toward Ava. And do you, Ava, take Ethan to be your husband? The room became silent. Ava looked at Ethan, then at the guests, then at me. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Ava, Pastor Samuel gently repeated. Do you accept? She looked terrified, not uncertain. Terrified. Ethan noticed. Everyone noticed. A few guests exchanged confused looks. Mr. Bennett stood from his seat. Ava. She closed her eyes. Her voice broke. I don't know. The room erupted with whispers. People looked around in confusion. Ethan didn't move. He simply watched her. Calm. Almost too calm. Then he slowly raised his hand. Wait. Pastor Samuel stopped immediately. Every person turned toward him. Ethan. He stepped away from the altar. My heart started racing. What is he doing? Ryan whispered. I don't know. Ethan walked toward the center of the room. The whispers grew louder. This is impossible. What's happening? Is the wedding canceled? Ethan ignored everyone. He walked to the small table beside the altar where the rings rested. He picked up the box. Then he turned around. For a moment, I thought he would speak to Ava. Instead, he walked toward me. My entire body froze. People moved aside as he approached. I looked around. Everyone was watching, including Ava. Her face was covered with tears. Ethan stopped in front of me. The ring box was in his hand. What are you doing? My voice was barely audible. He looked at me. Something that should have happened before today. I shook my head. I don't understand. I know. He opened the box. The wedding ring reflected under the lights. Then he said something that changed everything. Because love built on doubt doesn't save people. He paused. It destroys them. The room became completely silent. I stared at him. What does that have to do with me? His eyes remained steady. Everything. Ethan looked around the room. Every guest was waiting for an explanation. Nobody understood what was happening. Not even me. He held the ring carefully between his fingers. Ava deserves a marriage built on honesty. His voice remained calm. Not one built on fear, guilt, or pretending. Ava covered her mouth. Ethan. He looked at her. I'm sorry. The pain in her eyes was obvious. You knew. The question came out as a whisper. Ethan nodded. Not everything. He glanced at me. But enough. The room became louder. Guests started whispering again. Mr. Bennett stepped forward. What is the meaning of this? Ethan didn't turn around. It means this wedding cannot continue. Shock spread across the room. Someone gasped. Someone else whispered, he is ending his own wedding? Ryan stood beside me. I can't believe this. Neither could I. I looked at Ethan. Why are you doing this? He turned back to me. Because I know what it feels like to love someone who is somewhere else emotionally. My chest tightened. She loves you. The question escaped before I could stop it. Ethan looked toward Ava, then back at me. She never stopped loving the person she lost. Ava started crying. Please. Ethan's expression softened. I don't blame you. She shook her head. You should. No. He walked closer to her. I blame the fear that made you believe you didn't deserve honesty. Her tears fell faster. I tried. I know. I wanted to forget. I know. I wanted to move forward. I know. He looked at her sadly. But you can't build a future while running from the past. The words hit me because they were true. They were true for all of us. I had spent 3 years running from memories. Ava had spent 3 years running from pain. And Ethan had somehow seen what neither of us wanted to admit. Pastor Samuel quietly stepped away from the altar. The ceremony no longer existed. Only the truth remained. Ethan finally turned back toward me. Then he placed the ring into my hand. I stared at it. "What are you doing?" His answer was quiet, giving everyone the choice they were too afraid to make. The room exploded with whispers. I immediately shook my head. "No." Ethan looked surprised. "No. You can't just do this." "Why?" "Because this is your wedding." He smiled sadly. "No." He looked at Ava. "This was supposed to be a wedding." Then he looked at me. "But a marriage without truth is just a performance." My fingers closed around the ring without me realizing it. The weight felt impossible. 3 years of memories. 3 years of questions. 3 years of believing I had lost her forever. All of it was suddenly standing in front of me. Ava stepped toward us. "I never wanted this." Her voice broke. "I never wanted to hurt either of you." Ethan nodded. "I know." She looked at me. I thought I could bury the past. I couldn't speak. I thought if I forced myself to move on, eventually my heart would follow. A tear rolled down her cheek. But it didn't. The honesty hurt, because part of me had waited 3 years to hear it, and another part of me was terrified of what it meant. Ryan touched my shoulder. "Are you okay?" I looked at the ring in my hand, then at Ava, then at Ethan. No, I wasn't okay. Not even close. But standing there in the middle of a wedding that had fallen apart, I finally understood something. The biggest shock wasn't that Ethan had stopped the ceremony. The biggest shock was that he had done what neither Ava nor I had the courage to do. He chose the truth. The wedding ended without a wedding. Slowly, the guests left the venue. Some avoided looking at us. Others whispered quietly as they walked outside. Nobody knew what to say. Honestly, neither did I. I still held the ring Ethan had placed in my hand. It felt heavier than it should have. Ryan stood beside me near the entrance. "I don't even know what just happened." I looked toward the empty altar. "Neither do I." He studied my face. "Are you okay?" I almost laughed. "Do I look okay?" "No." He sighed. But I had to ask. Before I could answer, Ethan approached us. His expression was calm, but tired. "Can you both stay for a little longer?" Ryan looked at him suspiciously. "Why?" "Because there are things you need to know." I glanced at Ava. She stood near the altar, holding herself together. "Things Ava should have told us?" Ethan nodded. "Yes." Ryan looked at me. I understood what he was thinking. He didn't want me to get hurt again, but I needed answers. "I'll stay." Ryan immediately said, "Then I'm staying too." Ethan nodded. I expected that. We moved to a private room near the ceremony hall. Ava sat across from me. For 3 years, I had imagined this moment. I imagined anger. I imagined accusations. I imagined asking why she destroyed everything. But now that she was sitting in front of me, I couldn't speak. Ethan broke the silence. "Before today, Ava told me the truth." I looked at her. "The truth?" She lowered her head. "Everything." My heart tightened. "Everything about us?" She nodded. "Yes." I looked at Ethan. "And you still plan to marry her?" I did. "Why?" He answered honestly. "Because I thought love could heal wounds." He looked at Ava. But I eventually realized I was trying to heal something I didn't break. Nobody spoke. Then I turned to Ava. "Why did you leave?" Her eyes filled with tears. "I was afraid." I shook my head. "That's what everyone says." "No." She looked directly at me. "I was afraid because of my family." The room became quiet. "What does your family have to do with this?" She took a deep breath. "My parents never accepted you." I remembered. Her family had always treated me like I wasn't enough. But I never knew how serious it was. "My father said if I stayed with you, he would destroy your career." I stared at her. "What?" "He had connections." She wiped her tears. "He said he would make sure you couldn't succeed anywhere." I felt my anger shift. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I knew you." She gave a painful smile. "You would have fought them." "Of course I would have." "Exactly." Her voice broke. "And I couldn't let you lose everything because of me." Ryan looked away. Even he didn't have an answer. Ava continued. "The day before our wedding, my mother found out I was still planning to marry you." She swallowed. "She told me they would ruin your future if I walked down that aisle." My hands tightened. So you left? Yes. Without trusting me. She closed her eyes. I thought I was protecting you. The words hurt, because they sounded familiar, like every other sacrifice people made without asking me what I wanted. You decided for me. I know. Her tears fell. And that was the biggest mistake I ever made. I looked at Ava sitting across from me. For 3 years, I had carried one question inside me. Why? Why did she leave? Why did she choose to break my heart instead of fighting for us? Now I finally had an answer. And somehow, it hurt differently. Did you ever plan to come back? Ava looked down. Every day. The honesty surprised me. Every day. She nodded. I wrote messages. Then why didn't you send them? Because every time I tried, I remembered my father's threats. She wiped her tears. I was scared they would actually hurt your future. I looked away. I spent 3 years thinking you stopped loving me. Her face broke. I never stopped. The room became silent. Ethan sat quietly, letting us have the conversation. I hated you. Ava closed her eyes. I know. I blamed you for everything. I know. I thought you chose someone better. She shook her head. I chose being hated by you over watching you lose everything. Those words hit me harder than I expected, because suddenly, the goodbye I remembered looked different. I remembered standing alone after she disappeared. I remembered everyone telling me to move on. I remembered feeling worthless, but I never knew she was carrying her own pain. Your mother knew? Ava nodded. Yes. Your father? Yes. My jaw tightened. Mr. Bennett? She looked away. Yes. The anger returned. Not toward Ava, toward the people who had forced her into an impossible choice. A knock came at the door. Nobody moved. Then the door slowly opened. An older woman stepped inside. Ava immediately stood. Mom! I froze. Mrs. Bennett looked at all of us. Her expression was filled with regret. I know I don't deserve to be here. Nobody answered. She looked at me. I owe you the truth. I didn't say anything. She continued. Years ago, I believed I was protecting my daughter. Her voice shook, but I was protecting our family's image. Ava looked shocked. Mom, Mrs. Bennett looked at her. I was wrong. For the first time, I saw guilt on her face. Not pride, not control, guilt. I thought you would forget him. She looked at Ava. I thought time would erase your feelings. Ava whispered. It didn't. Mrs. Bennett nodded. I know. The room became heavier. Ethan finally spoke. This is why I couldn't continue the wedding. Everyone looked at him. He continued. Ava wasn't choosing me. He looked at her. She was choosing the safest option. Ava lowered her head. I thought I owed you. Ethan smiled sadly. You don't owe someone your heart. The words stayed with me, because they were true. Love wasn't a debt. It wasn't a punishment. It wasn't something someone should force themselves to give. I looked at Ethan. You knew all of this. He nodded. Before the wedding. And you still invited me. Yes. Why? He looked at Ava. Because she deserved the chance to stop running. Then he looked at me. And you deserve the truth. For 3 years, I wanted answers. I wanted someone to explain why my future disappeared overnight. Now I had those answers. But I also realized something. The person I had been angry at for 3 years wasn't the same person sitting in front of me. Ava had hurt me. That was true. But she had also been trapped by fear. And for the first time since she left, I wasn't looking at my lost love. I was looking at a person who had been lost too. Months passed after the wedding that never happened. At first, I thought everything would remain broken. I thought the truth would only create a different kind of pain. But slowly, things changed. Not quickly. Not perfectly. Just honestly. That was something Ava and I had never had before. Honesty. Ryan noticed the difference before anyone else. You seem different. I looked up from my coffee. Different how? He smiled. You're not angry anymore. I thought about that. I guess I'm not. Do you miss being angry? I laughed. No. Good. He leaned back. Because you were terrible at it. I smiled. I was hurt. I know. His expression softened. You had every reason to be. I nodded. But holding on to it didn't bring anything back. Ryan smiled. Now you're finally understanding. What? That peace is better than being right. I didn't answer. Because he was right. After everything that happened, I realized something important. Winning an argument wouldn't give me back 3 years. Punishing Ava wouldn't heal me. The only thing I could control was what I did next. Ethan moved on too. We stayed in contact. At first, it felt strange. The man who had almost married Ava became someone I respected. One afternoon, we met for coffee. He smiled when he saw me. I never thought we'd become friends. I laughed. Neither did I. He looked around the cafe. Life is strange. Very. He took a sip of his coffee. How is Ava? I smiled slightly. She's learning. Good. And you? He looked out the window. I'm learning too. About what? That letting someone go doesn't mean you failed. His answer stayed with me. Ethan wasn't the villain in my story. He was never my enemy. He was someone who chose truth when it would have been easier to ignore it. That made him stronger than I expected. Ava and I didn't rush back into a relationship. We didn't pretend nothing happened. We started from the beginning. Slow conversations. Small moments. Real apologies. One evening, we sat across from each other at a quiet restaurant. I still feel guilty. I looked at her. Why? Because I hurt you. You did. She looked down. I know. But you also faced the truth. She looked at me. Does that matter? Yes. Why? Because people who don't care don't change. Her eyes filled with tears. I don't want to lose you again. I reached across the table. Then don't run away again. She nodded. I won't. For the first time, I believed her. Months later, she invited me to the lake. The same lake where we had our first date. When I arrived, she was standing near the water. She held something in her hand. I immediately recognized it. The ring. The same ring Ethan had placed in my hand on the day everything changed. I looked at her. Ava. She smiled through tears. I think this belongs with you now. I stared at the ring. Why? Because it was never a symbol of a failed wedding. She stepped closer. It was a symbol of the truth we finally found. I looked at the ring resting in Ava's hand. For so long, I thought rings only represented promises. Promises that could be broken. Promises that could disappear overnight. But this ring was different. It represented everything we had survived. The heartbreak. The fear. The truth. The forgiveness. I never thought I'd see this again. Ava smiled sadly. Neither did I. She looked toward the lake. When Ethan gave it to you, I thought my entire life was falling apart. I nodded. So did I. She looked back at me. But now I realize something. What? The worst day of my life was also the day we finally stopped lying. I looked at the water. She was right. If Ethan had continued the wedding, we might have spent years pretending. Pretending everything was fine. Pretending love could survive without honesty. But it couldn't. Ava held the ring between her fingers. I don't expect you to forget. I won't. She nodded. I don't expect you to erase the pain. I can't. I don't expect everything to become perfect. I smiled. Good. She laughed softly. Why? Because perfect was what got us here. Her smile faded into something more emotional. I just want a chance to do things differently. I looked at her. Not because we have history. She nodded. Because we choose each other now. Those words mattered. Because 3 years ago, we had loved each other. But we were young. We were afraid. We let other people and our fears control our decisions. Now things were different. Now we understood the value of choice. I reached for the ring. Ava looked surprised. What are you doing? I smiled. Something I should have done a long time ago. I took her hand. But I didn't rush. I didn't make a dramatic promise. I simply looked into her eyes. Ava. Yes. I can't promise we will never face problems. She nodded. I know. I can't promise the past won't hurt sometimes. I know. But I can promise that I won't walk away without fighting for the truth. Her eyes filled with tears. And I promise I won't run anymore. Slowly, I slipped the ring onto her finger. This time, it wasn't about a wedding. It wasn't about proving anything to anyone. It was about choosing. Choosing honesty. Choosing forgiveness. Choosing a future. Ava looked down at the ring. It feels different. I smiled. Because we are different. She laughed quietly. I missed you. I missed you too. We stood there beside the lake where our story had started. But this time, we weren't the same two people. We weren't the couple who believed love alone could solve everything. We were two people who had learned that love needed courage. It needed truth. It needed patience. Later that evening, I told Ryan what happened. He listened quietly. Then he smiled. So the ring found its way home. I laughed. That's what you got from all of this? Yes. Seriously? He nodded. Because after everything, you finally stopped chasing the past. I thought about his words. He was right. For years, I wanted answers. I wanted to understand why Ava left. I wanted to know what I lost. But I finally realized something. Closure wasn't saying goodbye to the person you loved. Closure was accepting the story that happened and allowing yourself to write a new one. The ring that once represented heartbreak became something else. A reminder that even broken things could become beautiful again. Not because the damage disappeared, but because we learned how to rebuild. And as Ava and I walked beside the lake, I finally understood. Some goodbyes aren't endings. Sometimes they are the beginning of the truth.